All right. So we are live. So let's see if people want to join us tonight. We're going to have a little chat, a little chatty chat. See if anybody is interested. And again, this is one of these random lives that I do where I never announce anything and kind of just put it out there to see if people are interested or wanting to kind of hang out and talk. So we'll see if anybody comes in. I mean, we're going to still do this no matter what. And based on the title, you can see it's just kind of catching up, and then also talking about me getting a little bit tired with Guntubers as a whole. And we'll talk more about that. Piece of dog hair. So hopefully everybody who comes in is doing well. Hopefully everybody's out there. Already got a thumbs up. Somebody is watching. I don't know who. I wonder if it's my mom. Could be my wife or something. My biggest fans. All right, so it looks like Dexter. What's up, buddy? How's it going? So I'm going to try to see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Let's see what this says here. Pop out chat. There we go. That's a little better. So we'll just let some people trickle in, and then hopefully we'll get started here in a minute. And hopefully check out some people and how they're all doing. And, you know, I think it'd be interesting just to kind of catch up with everybody. Plus, I think I got an interesting topic to talk about because I just watched a video on YouTube and kind of annoyed the hell out of me, which, you know, I mean, I guess I shouldn't be annoyed at somebody else, but, you know, it happens, right? Rough past week, huh? What's going on with you, Dexter? Tell me. Let's have a chat. Tell me what's going on with you, buddy. Maybe I can give you some words of wisdom that I wish somebody would impart with me sometimes. I had a rough week too, actually. I've been having a pretty rough couple of weeks. My grandmother's very ill, and so that's taken a lot. And you know, just kind of dealing with that, which sucks. I'm sure many people are familiar with those types of problems. And they're never good, right? They never seem to end well for anybody. But so yeah, let's see if anybody else wants to join here. Wow, that sucks, dude. Sorry to hear about it, man. I'm sorry to hear about your dad and obviously your cousin. I mean, that's crazy, right? It seems like when things happen, you know, it happens in like the worst parts or worst timing that you could think of. So, man, I'm sorry to hear that, dude. I really am. It really sucks. Never a fun time when you got to talk about stuff like that. Never a fun time. What's up? What's going on? Hi, guys. Hi, everybody. I'm just reading your comments here. So I don't know. I'll probably be on for maybe an hour or so if you guys want to just kind of chime in and, you know, 81, that says a little. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it could be, but, you know, even when you're expecting it, it's never a good thing. You're in trouble sometimes accepting the eventual fate that we all gonna, you know, fall in line with. You know, even my grandmother, you know, she's 90, so you think I would expect it, but you know, I've been having a tough time just dealing with her illness. You know, and again, it's you know, when you get to those years, you begin to realize that it's a little bit more screwed up. You know, as you get older with your brain and everything. So, did his breaking of his hip contribute to death? Because that's even worse, man. Yeah, yeah. It's hard, you know. You go to the hospital and you're going in for what you think is just a routine, And then you realize that, well, maybe it's not so routine after all. And then next thing you know, it's tragedy. I'm sorry to hear that, man. Really, my sympathies and my prayers for you and your family. Hopefully you guys will get through this on the other end. So a couple of things, right? So I wanted to kind of get through a chat tonight with anybody who's watching this right now. It looks like there's 8 people. So if you've just joined, just say hello so we know who's here. And I kind of want to talk a little bit about some of the things that I've been working through regarding just YouTube. I mean, you guys know I haven't done anything in forever. Wait, what say? Oh, after the mayoral race? No, I'm not moving. I don't live in the city, man. Thank God. I'm a little concerned with all the freaks that are going to be coming up here now because of it. But for those of you who aren't aware, we have our first socialist mayor in New York City. As things couldn't get bad enough down in the city, let's elect that. But it's kind of interesting because when you think about it, New York City and New York City residents are their own biggest enemy. They elect mayors who are extremely corrupt, who do everything for their friends. And it's like, if you guys are history students or know anything about history, it's kind of like, Boss Tweed and the Tammany Hall scandals, right? It never ended. So it's constant in New York City. So, they have a guy who promises them I'm going to give you everything for free. And at the same time, doesn't explain how that's going to be free and all this other stuff. But, he won in a landslide. But again, the best people we had running against him were Curtis Sliwa and Andrew Cuomo, of all people. So it just goes to show you how pathetic the state is when those are literally your 2 best candidates. And at the end of the day, there's really not much else you can even talk about. So it's pathetic. We are super as a state, and the city, I think, is going to be in big trouble. I really do. I really, really do. Yeah, that's a blueprint. You're absolutely right. And if it happens here, I would not be surprised if you begin to see everywhere else it happening as well. And this is the blueprint, right? This is exactly what they want. This is exactly how they're going to figure it all out and make everyone else kind of suffer as a result of the stupidity of New Yorkers. But listen, the best I can say to you is maybe we'll get lucky. Maybe maybe somehow this will turn into Shangri-La, and everything in New York City will be just right as rain. But I get a feeling it's not going to work out so well. By the way, I just want to know, how's the sound coming through, the vision of the video. Obviously I'd like to make sure everything looks good for you guys, except for the host, of course. But I've changed a couple of things in this room that I've been in for years. More casual, because I'm not really making any review videos. And even if I do review videos, I'm just going to do them like this. So why the hell not? So let's see. Video's not great, huh? Well, that's a bummer. I wonder why the hell that is. Now I am directly streaming through YouTube. So I don't know if that has something to do with it. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if using YouTube is even worth it, but who knows? Let's see. I'm going to do a couple of edits here and see what happens. Customization. Let's see what that is. Live chat replay, blah, 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 blah. All right, let's cancel out of that. Yeah, I'm not, like I said, I've never been, super wise with this stuff, but monetization, overlay for breaks. Let's see, mid-roll ads. Wow, it might be a mid-roll ad. I doubt it. Yeah, so as again, like I said, I haven't really done these in a while, so at some point I'll get back into the swing of things. I just wanted to stop in and basically want to just say hello to everybody, but I also want to talk about something I watched tonight. So I was watching. I don't really watch gun videos anymore, to be honest with you, because I honestly have gotten sick of them. I find them to be super disingenuous. None of them are really relevant with, objective reviews or objective information. Everything is like watching commercials. not really down with Guntubers anymore. And it's not a knock against anybody, right? Like, I'm not bitching about anybody in specific or particular, but I did watch this video right before I got in the shower, and it kind of irritated me a little bit. So I figured, you know what, I'm going to do a live stream and kind of talk a little bit about why I've sort of moved away from making gun content and really not making any content. And it's been kind of an interesting let go. And what I mean by that is, I've done YouTube now for, and you never think it, right? Like 7 or 8 years, maybe even longer. Never made it big, never was trying to make it big. And kind of, I think, in my opinion, lost my way a little bit trying to compete with things that there was just no way to compete. And I think for me, like, as I walk away from it a little bit, I began to realize, like, I'm a little bit happier now because I don't have an agenda or anything to do. And I don't have to feel like this pressure to compete. And I'm okay with that. Now, some people say it's a decision, right? So some people make decisions, and you don't have to necessarily watch these videos or listen to anybody else's feedback. Rotodima is also saying, if he wants any information, he'll do it himself. And I agree. I that's sort of where I've gotten to with everything. So I watched this video earlier tonight, and I just was kind of curious what people thought their best 9mm EDCs were. I watched this video, and a pretty fairly large channel, 80,000+ subscribers. And I mean, it was kind of funny, the video, because you would think, what's up, Rabbi? You would think that the guns that he presented as his best choices would have made more sense, but it seemed like there was definitely a pattern, right? So I believe there were 6 or 7, 3 of the 6 or 7 guns that he had on there were all shadow systems. Of course, there was one Bull Armory. Of course, there was a Kimber, which I'm like, Kimber. Of course, a Palmetto State. So I was sitting here saying to myself, I mean, if that doesn't say at all the reason why I left Guntubers behind, I don't know what does. Some people love shadow systems. I have a shadow system. I love the gun. It's a great gun. But to sit there and say to people that this is the gun you should buy, and then 2 more choices are the same exact type of pistols that command a higher price than probably most of everything else out there, I was just like, it's kind of bullshit. It was just ridiculous. Yeah, and again, Rabbi saying it's the Kimber thing also threw me off. But then there was a Bull Armory that is like $1,200, and I got to say, man, this is precisely why I've decided to walk away from it all. For the meantime, I don't know if it's going to be forever or not. It might be, it might not be. I'm not really sure what I'm doing with this channel anymore. I pop on every once in a while. I try to, kind of just do a couple of things here and there and try to make it interesting for people. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, and that's okay too. But I also know, like, for me as a person who did this, I just think it's kind of crazy that, we're literally watching these guys make this content, and not one person can sit here and tell me that the stuff they're pushing out there is super objective. And I that's why I'm just done with it. And, I talked a little bit about this before, but I think it's time to kind of just spit it out. Like, I mean, if people are looking for content and they're trying to get content that is legit or, not necessarily paid by, the highest bidder, then I think people need to realize what you're seeing on YouTube is probably not going to be it. And I guess, for some reason, people will sit there and say, well, you have a choice to not watch it. And that's why I stopped watching it. Yeah. Yep. Scotsman. Oh man, Scotsman. I just realized you're on here. Hey buddy, I hope you're doing well, man. It's been, I feel like, years. But yeah, I mean, it's the way of everything. And it's kind of pathetic, that for some reason people will sit here and watch these guys. And, when you're trying to peddle the best guns for EDC are all shadow systems. I mean, nobody screams out, well, that doesn't seem to be right. And of course, there was also the Canic Prime, which by all imaginations, I'm sure it's a good gun, but I've got to say, I've got the MC9 LS, and I think that gun's just as good. And like, all the talking points about the gun. And what I did was I actually went back and looked at some of their old videos on this channel. And all the talking points that were mentioned in the video were the exact talking points that they got from the salespeople at SHOT Show. And I just think it's pathetic. I really just think it's pathetic. Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. YouTube is not really it's not really information sharing anymore. It's more or less like just commercial after commercial. It's kind of sad. Right. And Rotodime is saying exactly what my beliefs are. I mean, there's no reason to get a prime. Now they try to sell the trigger as a thing. The stippling is a little bit different on the grip or the grip texturing, and the serrations are supposedly better. I mean, great if that is it. But I mean, to sit there and say that that gun now should, you know, be on par with some of the cheaper guns, I don't agree with that either. I just think, like, if you're going to really talk about like the best EDC guns, there's no way to make a video that makes sense in that regard, in my opinion, because everybody has their own opinion of what works best for them, you know. And if you're going to make one of those videos, to tell people that in order for you to get a good striker fired EDC, you got to pay 600 or more, I don't think that's true. I don't think that's anywhere remotely true. You know, if you go online, there are so many guns right now that are hitting rock bottom. You know, if you guys are aware, if I usually will look at guns and I look at prices, and you know, there's always these fluctuations on the, you know, the value of firearms. Right now, there's a lot of firearms where they're bottoming out. That's the word I'm using. And you know, they can range anywhere from, you know, I mean, 6 hour, obviously, for obvious reasons. But even like Glock 48s and 43Xs, I mean, I'm finding them online for $300. And so, like, if I had to buy a good EDC gun and I could get a Shadow Systems Foundation series for like maybe 450, 500, or I can get a Glock 48 or 43X for three and change, I'd rather go with the Glock. So, you know, to me, that's it. And like, you know, for example, like if you wanted to get an affordable gun, you don't have to get the name brands, right? I mean, you can go with the T-Shis, which, you know, again, some people will knock that gun. I don't have any issues with the gun. It's got 1,000 rounds through it. It's been really, really good for me. You could even talk about going and getting a Springfield Armory. Now, some people might say, but the Echelon is fairly expensive, and you're right. But why not go with like an XD Mod 2 or 3? Maybe not necessarily the XD Mod. What was it? I think it was Mod. Was it Mod 2? I can't even remember. The one that had, what was that on the grip? Grip Zone, right? So you go with one that doesn't have it. So like the Mod 3s don't have it. And they also have an optic ready slide, better serrations, better trigger. It's a full size gun, but still, I mean, I looked at one online, and right now that bid is at $185 with only a few hours to go. So it's like there are so many different things out there that are, in my opinion, so readily available to the masses, but yet constantly on YouTube, whenever you watch one of these Guntubers, they're always trying to friggin' like peddle $600 things that you don't need. So I don't know. Even the Echelon, I haven't gotten my hands on one, but some of the Echelon right now, the full sizes are going for fairly cheap. You know, and to me, why wouldn't you pick that? You know, but again, it's all about where there's who's sending them what, and you know, what is their agendas. So, yep, there's tons of deals going on right now. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, you could buy used guns right now that are selling for super cheap. You know, I put in all the name brands to see what's coming up, but so Rotodime is asking me about the ported version of the CZP-10C. To be honest with you, I've looked at them. I'm like, what? I mean, I know some people who make the videos are saying it's absolutely the best P10C ever created because of the ports. Okay. I mean, to me, I find no reason to buy one. I really don't. I don't need a gun with ports. I don't, especially one that shoots pretty damn flat to begin with. So actually, you know, looking at a P10C that's an OD green, and also the full FDE model, why not? Like they're relatively cheap, both under 500, and you know, the P10C to me just shoots really well. So to get a ported version, I don't know, it doesn't really make sense to me. Doesn't really make sense. Yeah, so I did review the plus the carry comp, which was a great gun. Now, of course, they came out with the Shield X. But again, that's the wave, right? Everybody now is going to sell you that you got to have a ported handgun. I mean, give me a break. Give me a break. That's a good price. I mean, what are your thoughts on the P10C ported? I mean, is it really everything you thought it would be and then some? I mean, I guess it's going to be depending on what gets your attention. I mean, I don't like. I would always say if whatever the new next thing is, that's what the manufacturer is going to push out, and then everything you see on YouTube is going to be about that. So, like for example, before optics came readily available, you didn't really see them. Then all of a sudden, optics came out, creeping out, and next thing you know, everybody's got to have one. As a matter of fact, in that video I was watching, the guy was even saying that you've got to have an optic, you've got to have a light in order to have a correct EDC. And again, I think that's bullshit. I don't think you need those things. But again, it's going to be based on the person, right? You're going to tell me that in order for you to have a really good EDC, you've got to have a fucking light on it, or you got to have an optic. I don't agree with that. Yes, I understand it's 2025 and every gun should be that and this and everything else, but you don't need it to have a good EDC. You don't need it to be a good shooter. Now, if you're a good shooter and you have those extras, guess what? You're going to be a better shooter. And if your gun doesn't have the capability of having an optic, it doesn't mean that it's less valuable. It doesn't mean that it's less worthy to carry. It just means it doesn't have it. The bull barrel. Yep, that makes sense. Thicker barrel. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, obviously, people would say the reality is that if you're using an optic versus a light on your gun, which is the better option of the two, I would agree that it's the flashlight. That's what I would agree with. And that is true, Rabbi. If you can't hit paper with a Taurus, you can't hit with a Glock or a SIG either. And you're right. And that's why I'm saying, like, if you're out there buying up these guns and buying up the bullshit that you're seeing on YouTube, you know what? Whatever. I mean, good for you. I'm glad it's working out. But I still think that YouTube and the Guntubers and, all the nonsense with these guys and gals, the one thing they're missing is the fact that you don't need to have the best in order to have something. And that's sort of why that's why I kind of left this whole video review and garbage, because after a while, you just get inundated with wanting to do more and more and more. And it's always got to be better, right? So the next gun has to be better than the last gun, and the next optic has to be better than the last optic, or this holster needs to be better than the last holster. And it's like, it's just kind of so like pathetic. It just is annoying. Yeah, it's great to have experiences shooting everything, but I guess for me to not have the ability to just be real about things is why I'm just kind of, I don't know, kind of tuned out to all of it. Mm-hmm. PPSM2 just hit a price cut. I know those have been going crazy low, man. Crazy low. Yep. I saw a couple of PDPs actually, and it's the beginning of the auctions, but there's only like a day or two left, and they're in the low 200s, which I think is crazy. But that's why I think a lot of guns right now are hitting rock bottom. So today, like for me, if I was going to give you any opinion, now's the time to go out and buy something, because of the fact that the prices are getting so low, they're hard to resist. Deep couch. Yeah, I don't know. I just think for the most part, I think YouTube just sours a lot of people because of the fact that, it's just always the same old garbage and the same old people and the same old nonsense. And, whatever, people are going to get mad or upset and say, oh, you're just hating. No, I'm not hating. I don't really give a shit if people are doing great or not on YouTube. I just simply am tired of it. I'm tired of the dishonesty and the shilling. And, you can name any YouTuber you want and they're a shill. That's the way I look at it now. I've gotten past the idea of believing that, there are some people out there who aren't shills on YouTube. I don't believe it anymore. I absolutely believe any gun tuber out there right now that has a pretty decent following and makes great contact, all shilling the hell out of everything. No doubt in my mind now. And I don't care whose feelings that hurts, because what are they going to do? You're going to come into my house and beat me up? Okay. Go for it. But, I just think if we're going to talk about it, let's have a real conversation, So, yeah, I like the PPSM too. That was a very good gun from Walther. I think it's kind of interesting, like when Walther came out with the CCP, huge mistake. What they really should have done is modernize the PPS to an M3 version. But for some reason, they went that route with the CCP, and in my opinion, just lost all respect for me with that gun. That gun sucks. Yeah, I mean, Such. It's like, give me a break. And it's not even just Such. I mean, it's so many different channels out there. And don't get me wrong, their content is entertaining. I mean, the videography, the production value, it's really good. Like, it's very good. But to call them gun reviewers is not. It's not realistic. It's not. And you're right. I mean, it is hard to make a bit of money if you don't compromise some things. But I also don't. I don't know if I agree with that a whole lot, because I mean, you gotta have some integrity. But I guess some people don't. Some people don't have integrity, or maybe I should have no integrity. Maybe that's what I need to start doing. I'm going to start shilling everything. As a matter of fact, I'm going to start. I'm going to start trying a GoFundMe page for myself to see if I can get people to donate for a great cause. Excuse me. And that great cause is for me to buy a Rolex. So I'm going to start taking funds from anybody who wants to donate. Something like that. I'll just say I'm dying, because technically I am. I mean, I got about hopefully 45 years left, or 40 years left before that day happens. So maybe if I do that and I say in 40 years, I'll be fine. Double stack people is in the works. I hope so. I hope so. Give me a little more faith in their guns again. I wasn't a big fan of the PDP. Even now, like when I look at PPQs, I still think the PPQ is such a nicer looking gun. The PDP. I mean, look, the lower of the PDP, the grip is great, but that slide, it ruins it for me. Totally ruins that gun. Yeah, I know that lung thing. You're right, man. I have bad lungs. Thanks, old profession. Wishful thinking. So, as a matter of fact, Rabbi, if you want, you can donate the full amount. I'm looking at a Rolex. It's about $8,000, which is on the lower end of Rolex. So, let me know. Just email me, and then I'll send you my Venmo. Yeah, P99 is a great gun. Love that gun. I still think the PPQ is a better gun than the PDP. Again, it doesn't have all the bells and whistles of an optic capable slide and blah, blah, blah. But that gun is still the king for the Walthers for me. As a matter of fact, I was looking online at an M1 PPQ with the paddle release, because I love the paddle on that. And it's pretty reasonably priced. And so I don't know, maybe one day I'll grab one. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Not exactly sure. And then, like I said, for me, I think just making videos is kind of at a standstill. I want to do more live chats, but every single time I do, and I say I'm going to get on and do a live chat, I sit on the couch and I say to myself, yeah, I'll do it next time, and I never do it. So there you have it. That's been my secret that I haven't told anybody, is that every time I think I'm going to do a chat or something like that, I sit on that damn couch, man, and that couch absorbs me. And it's not because I'm not busy. I am. I'm very busy, a very busy person. But at the same time, it'd be nice to pop on here a little more often. But even as I watch the chats on other people's channels, the best part is when they do these chats, they have like 25, 30 people watching them. And then they say, well, I'm only going to answer questions from people who want to give super chats. And I'm like, here we go again. So it's like people are just giving money so somebody can ask a question that they could probably just Google. I don't get it. Everybody's throwing out the guys they like, so that's cool. What does that say? Hi, Aaron. How's it going? So it's funny, like I have my setup so different now. So like my computer screen's a little bit further from my face. And it's a little bit more elevated, but I can't see it. I can't read anything. Oh God, I need glasses. And then, I've been I've been kind of taking control of my health a little bit more too. So because like I said, if you go into doing something and then you change things, it doesn't mean life is over as you know it. It just means that other things have to take shape and kind of take priority. So one of the goals I had was to lose weight. And I went all in diet, and the diet seems to be working really well. My health is really, really good right now. My blood work came back better than it has in 15 years. I started doing and just really eating a lot of protein, and everything I'm doing it's called a carnivore diet, which I'm sure some of you guys know about. I highly recommend it. Obviously, you want to make sure that if you're going to do this type of diet, you go get your blood draws and make sure that everything. Thank you, Rabbi. I appreciate that. What's the weight of an unladen swallow? You know what? I might just refund you $1.99 because I don't know the answer to that. But I would highly recommend that diet, but you got to get your blood draw and make sure that everything's looking good, with cholesterol and all this other shit. What does that say? No, I did not have anything of that sort. But I lost a ton of weight, man. I lost 21 pounds, which, I'll be honest, I'm not a small guy. I mean, I'm 6'2". I was weighing about, gosh, I think the heaviest I got up to, I want to say, was 241. So I dropped 20 pounds. So I'm about 221, 225. It fluctuates right now. But this is the best I felt. I feel like I'm in good shape right now. I'm in the gym every day, but I always have been an active person. So the gym is not anything new for me. Being active is not anything new, but I cut out all the carbs for the most part. And I have some cheat nights. Every Friday and Saturday, I eat popcorn and drink some milk. But one of the things you have to do is cut out sugar and a lot of the carbs. And, so I haven't had rice. I don't eat potatoes. So at night I'll eat nothing but either meat or chicken with a vegetable. And even vegetables you're not supposed to do, but I like vegetables. So that's what I did. And it seems to work. I mean, I'm feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty good. Let me just see what that says. Fasting. Yeah, I fast usually in the morning. I don't breakfast, but by the time afternoon gets in, I'm starving, man. I got to eat. Yeah, and there it does. Like when you start to lose, I may have to do this with my camera so it refocuses. So that, please, I'm not waving to you or making weird hand gestures. But one of the things I did notice is you just feel better, right? You're losing that kind of weight. Your back doesn't hurt as much. Um, I just think it's like so much different, and you don't realize it, right? Like I was 240 and I felt like I was big. I wasn't fat, but I knew I was a little bit thicker than I'd want to be. And then once I started dropping the weight, I just couldn't believe it. And I mean, the weight came off like automatically. It wasn't like there was this struggle. Um, but the weight came off, I mean, just automatically. And then you begin to realize that, holy shit, the pants that you were wearing all those years are now falling off your waistline. And the sweatshirts you wore that were not tight, but you could fit into them are now much looser. I mean, it's really a really cool feeling to accomplish it. But also to have the mindset to keep on doing it, which some people don't. And I do. Like once I get fixated on it, I don't stop and I don't quit. So I've been feeling really good about that. And I'm pretty happy with that. Pretty happy with that. So, I would recommend, like I said, it's not going to be for everybody because, you've got to decide like what's going to be best for your own health. But I would always say if you're going to try this diet, it may not work for you based on, having the meat and everything else like that. But, try it out and see what happens. See what happens. And if it works and your health is good or it's improving, then you might want to stick with it. At least that's my opinion. Doesn't necessarily need to be yours, but it certainly is what I have found with my own experience through it. And again, I'm like 50 years old, so it's like there's other things you got to look at. Do your blood work. Definitely you want to look at everything, your thyroid, your testosterone levels. I mean, everything. And what you're going to find is as you get to this age, you begin to realize that everything you thought that was normal is so abnormal and just off that you have to figure out ways to fix it. And there's all the talk about TRT, which is replacement therapy and all this other stuff. And I support it. I support the use of it, especially when you're getting older and you begin to see those levels drop. And a lot of men won't even talk about it because they're, oh my God, I don't, my testosterone levels are too low. Well, you're also been alive for 50 years and you have to realize that, you're not necessarily going to be replacing, testosterone at the levels of a bodybuilder, but just to be able to get yourself to an optimized level. And that's what you really need to look for. So it's like, there's a lot of things you can look at, a lot of things you can do. I'll tell you, man, I feel great right now. I can't complain. I'm fortunate to be alive, fortunate to have somewhat good health, and I have no complaints, So I think all these things are things that, kind of change as you get older. But more importantly, like when you take a walk back from a hobby like this, you begin to focus on things that maybe fell out of focus a little bit. So at least that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Self-lymphatic massages. I don't even know what that is, but if it's coming from Rabbi, it is probably not real. That's another Google moment. And then like, what have I been watching lately on YouTube? What are some of the other things I've been watching? What I've been watching a lot of, which is crazy. I don't know about many of you, but like when I was like in probably like my late teens, early 20s, I was a huge fan of the WWF. And that was like when the Raw era was around. So you had like Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock and all those guys. So I've been watching like some of the podcasts where like Stone Cold Steve Austin has a podcast, which is actually pretty good. And they just talk about the glory days of their wrestling careers and controversies and stuff. So I've been watching a lot of that. What else have I been watching? I've been watching like some of this stuff where they go after like some of these alpha males on YouTube, like King Azuli and some of these other guys. So I've been watching some of that. John Bravo, I watch his stuff. He's a pretty funny guy. Goes after guys like Wes Watson and stuff. So, I mean, just kind of entertaining now. Like that's what I'm looking for. because again, like I said, there's not a lot of information on YouTube anymore. I mean, there's not a lot of independent stuff that's being produced where you can literally learn something from it. The only thing I've been watching on that end of learning stuff is this one guy. He's like astro. I don't know if he's an astrophysicist. I don't even know, but he's been talking about 3-eye atlas and like the sunspots and all this other crap. So I find that to be interesting. But that's about it. So am I switching up holsters? Yep. I go back and forth. I either use a Black Arch or I will use the Armsman holsters. Those have become my two go-tos. And the Armsman makes great stuff, and he makes stuff for guns that you don't really find a lot for. Like, for example, anybody who's looking for a Steyr before the M series is gone, I'd highly recommend looking at the Armsman's holsters. And yeah, it's kind of sad news. Steyr has decided to sell out to Arex or whatever the hell the name of that company is. And now all of the Steyr pistols, the M series, which is their pistol, are gone. They've discontinued them, and now they're just rebadging some of the Arex guns with Steyrs on them, which is just so stupid. And that's kind of a shame because, unfortunately, the M series is like one of the best striker fire guns ever created, but absolutely no aftermarket, no support from the company. So unfortunately, that's going to go by the wayside for a lot of people. And it kind of sucks because I still think the M series gun is by far one of the best ever made. But, not everybody feels that way. Lymphatic massages. Oh boy. Yeah, I mean they're gone. They've discontinued them. And like if you go on, they've already released the handguns in Europe. And if you look at those handguns, all they are the Arex guns. I'm trying to remember what they are. The hammer fired guns. They're not even striker fired. They're hammer fires. So that's why I'm like, this sucks because, a lot of people, as my microphone keeps bouncing all over the place, a lot of people, never really gave that gun much attention. And now that it's finally gone, it's kind of disappointing. But, I guess they had to cut costs somehow, and that was the way to do it, which to me, if anything, they really should have tried to do more with that pistol to try to get it to be a mainstay for people. But it just wasn't ever going to be in the cards. And that kind of sucks because that gun is fantastic. It's just a great gun. And you know what's even crazier is that you can't find them at a deep discount right now. I mean, if you go on a particular website and you're looking for a cheap Steyr, you can't even find them even now. And I always said that was the biggest problem with that handgun was that they were just priced stupidly. They're not priced at a competitive number. And because of that, people don't want to really see, they don't want to buy it. Especially when you have so many different options out there that are, well stocked and well versed in the aftermarket community, but maybe command either the same price or a little bit lower. So the Steyr M series never made sense for a lot of people, and for good reason. So I am going to be getting off here shortly. My wife just got home, and it's going to make some dinner here soon. But I do want to say to everybody, thanks for joining. I appreciate everybody coming out and listening to me for 45 minutes or so. Again, I hope everybody is doing well. I mean, we have the holiday seasons coming out, so I'm sure there's going to be a little added stress for everybody, but we'll get through it like we do every year. But we'll see. We'll see if we keep doing these. I don't know. But, again, leave some comments, share the live, do whatever you want to do. But I always like doing these, and I like watching people coming in and saying hello. And, we'll be back at some point. But leave some comments, man. And we'll see you next time, guys. Appreciate it. Everybody have a great night. And if I don't see you before Thanksgiving, everybody, have a great Thanksgiving. And a good Christmas, or in your case, Rabbi Hanukkah. But we'll see you soon. Bye, guys.